Hello everyone, welcome to the supplemental episode for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
One was not enough.
Because one was not enough because we're here with two special guests. Our first guest ever on an EZAnime, Brandon Jones.
I'm on an anime show.
What a world.
Anime.
And Kyle Bosman, this will not be your last time on EZAnime for sure. When we eventually do that Hunter x Hunter episode.
Oh, don't tease.
It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
You know we're gonna do that Naruto episode too.
We're gonna do a Naruto episode. We're gonna.
I think that's Huber and Damiani, to be honest with you.
You don't want to be in?
I love Naruto.
I don't think he wants to be a part of it.
I don't think it's my place. I got to know my role.
Wow.
I think it's your place.
Like
I think.
The Rock?
Yeah.
Let the people decide.
Yeah. Okay.
Let the people decide. But we're doing this for a bunch of reasons. We've had 3 episodes of EZAnime now where it's been Brad and I. We've been sharing our opinions, talking about things. And we wanted to give you guys a different perspective. And we're particularly going to be focusing on Brandon Jones' perspective because I think it's the most interesting out of all 4 of us. But before we get started with any of that, the number one complaint that we've gotten with EZAnime, and I think it's a fair complaint, it is said loudly and with good reason, is a lack of structure. So we are going to make this a little bit more structured, have the segments be a little bit more clearly defined. There are going to be timestamps. We're going to clearly mark when there's going to be spoilers and when there's not going to be spoilers. So another thing that we're going to do is I realize a lot of you, as you've made very clear to me, you are not familiar necessarily with what we're talking about. You want to know what it is. So at the beginning of every EZAnime, we're going to do a very basic synopsis of what we're talking about. We're going to tell you where you can watch it / read it. And we're going to do that right now with what is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Oh, hold on. I gotta add something in. I just want people to know we're gonna do Steins Gate still this month. This is not the only episode for this month.
Yep.
We will cover that.
Good call,
This
Brad.
is a bonus.
Yeah, we're going to be doing the Steins Gate episode. Will go live sometime on April 30th. So look forward to that.
Awesome.
Nice.
We're really excited to talk about Steins Gate.
Yeah.
It's a little bit smaller in scope than other things we've discussed so far.
I think that's a good break from what we've been doing.
Yeah, I think tonally and in terms of scope, it's going to be a big break in what we've been doing, so I'm very excited to talk about that. But what is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure? JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, its original manga run was in 1987, which is kind of crazy because I feel like it's really only blown up in popularity thanks to the 2012 anime done by David Production.
In the U.S. Popularity in the U.S.
Popularity in the U.S. Yep,
Yeah.
that's a good point to bring up. And that's kind of how we all got introduced to JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. We were aware of it because of the Dreamcast game that focused on Stardust Crusaders characters. But we really only grew to love the story through the 2012 anime. And my brief synopsis, my one-sentence synopsis for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is that it is a grand generational adventure with supernatural elements. It doesn't take itself too seriously.
Okay.
A goofy Castlevania.
Now, do you guys have any other quick notes that you would like to tack onto that summary?
I'm disappointed the word stylish is not in there.
Stylish.
I would add
think
rock
that's
and
very
roll
good.
to that. A rock and roll.
Rock and roll.
Sure.
Okay, so
Definitely is a rock and roll vibe.
a rockin' and rollin', stylish generational adventure with supernatural elements that doesn't take itself too seriously.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, we
Nailed
can
it.
collectively agree on that.
But it does at times.
But it does.
But it does at times.
It does.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's not all goof and gaffing.
It's hard to tell.
It's not a comedy, but it's very funny.
Yes.
Where you can watch / read JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So if you want to watch the anime, so there are 8 parts currently ongoing in Japan right now. 8 parts of the manga. Parts 1 through 4 are in animated form. If you're looking to just get into it, that might be the easiest way to do it. You can watch it on Crunchyroll, or if you have Hulu, you can watch it on Hulu.
Oh. I just got Crunchyroll last night so I could watch JoJo. I did not even know it's on Hulu.
It's on Hulu.
Oh,
yeah.
what a dum-dum.
Yes.
Wait, don't
parts
be like
1 through
Kyle.
4
Oh, those $7.
are on Hulu.
Oh!
I guess everyone. So I share a Hulu Plus account. I guess you don't need a Hulu Plus account to watch it. You can just watch it for free with ads. The same is true of Crunchyroll, right? I've just had these memberships for so long.
So Crunchyroll, some of them you do need a sub for.
Oh.
Okay.
And they'll put a little crown
They
next
put
to
the
it.
star. Yeah. Okay.
Worth it.
There's also the manga right now. There's an official release from Viz. You can buy parts 1, and they're working their way through part 3 right now. So if you would rather read JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and you want to support it officially, you could go to a Barnes & Noble or an Amazon and get started with the story that way.
Oh, wait, it's all one part inside one volume?
No. So the parts are divided.
That's what I meant.
There's
like,
Phantom Blood and then...
that's really cool.
Those
I like
hardcovers, though.
That's
They're
great.
Yeah, the covers are amazing.
That's awesome.
They're bigger, higher quality than your average manga volume.
JoJo.
Yeah,
Show it
it's
some
nice.
respect.
It's
you know.
nice. It's nice. Now, to kind of get into the crux of the show, we're going to be switching into our next segment here. I want to talk to Brandon Jones, and I want to get his opinion on JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Are spoilers still off?
Spoilers are still off.
Okay.
You don't have to worry about me.
Make that clear.
Yeah, I'm not.
Yeah,
I couldn't spoil much if that was my effort.
Sure. Yeah, I don't want to dig into spoilerific moments, but you're not somebody that watches a lot of anime, and that was actually my first question, Brandon Jones, is what is your experience with anime as a whole?
I've answered this before. I know we don't consider Avatar: The Last Airbender anime. It was produced in America, but I've watched that show. I love. That's one of my favorite television shows ever. So there are definitely themes that are brought up in shows like this. I was into Full Metal Alchemist for at least one season.
I want to dig into that.
Yeah.
And I think that was on television when I saw it. I think that was on
Adult Swim.
Adult Swim, that might have been a Tsunami or something. I think I just caught it right when it premiered. It was like tonight, the premiere of Full Metal Alchemist, and they sent the pitch, and I was like, that sounds kind of interesting, and then just like fell in love with the, those are two pretty awesome central characters, and that's a big thing for me. Whether it's an RPG or a show or anything, it's like I have to love someone immediately if I'm really going to get into this. And that was the thing about Avatar. It's just like every time they introduce a character, I'm like, I love all of these people. Like I'm so fascinated to find out more of the story. And I love the characters in JoJo. Oh boy.
So I know there was some excitement for JoJo last year with the anime. I think we were all watching Phantom Blood. I think, Kyle, you were actually farther than any of us at that point. I think you were on Stardust Crusaders while we were still in Phantom Blood.
Yeah.
And you were kind of seeing the hype. We did that stream of the JoJo game, which I think we all enjoyed a lot, Eyes of Heaven. Why did you decide to watch JoJo's Bizarre Adventure?
It was gifted to me. I mean, a user specifically said, I think you should watch this show. Here's the DVD. I was like, oh, great. And it was dubbed, so that meant that I could, which, again, I do not prefer. I don't think one is better than the other. It was just that enabled me to do other work and put it on in the background. And I was amazed how distracted I was and kept like, what just happened? Wait a minute. Like, I heard the whole conversation of the last 5 minutes, and I couldn't tell. Wait, where are we? We're on a mountaintop now? What's happening? Well, I just totally missed something. And then just completely got wrapped up in it. I was sad when those DVDs ended.
What was your opinion of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure before you watched it, based on what you had heard from us and what you had seen?
I thought it was a little more farcical than it turned out to be.
Okay.
I didn't know that a lot of the kind of over the top dramatic moments that they achieved were just that it was a very it's a soap opera. Like, it's a very lot of dramatic characters, a lot of classic. Like, it opens up and it's Downton Abbey, and I was like, whoa, I was not expecting this. So yeah, I thought it was going to be there was a lot of posturing on the show, but like I thought. I was not expecting carriages and this kind of like you mentioned Castlevania before. Like, I did not think they were going that way.
That was the turning point for me. I know we talked about that, but when Dio was like a vampire, I was like, what? This is insane. I love it.
Yeah, knowing you and knowing how much you love Bloodborne and Castlevania, that's very much tapping into the Brad aesthetic.
But one thing that was extremely different from pretty much any other animated show I've ever seen in my entire life was my initial impression was after the opening, which explained the entire show, which was interesting. I was like, okay, I have this season to look forward to. Because the opening is like the season. It's like Dio is going to become a vampire before the show starts.
Oh, sure.
Before anything happens. It's like, I've seen it. I know that he gets shot and then pops back up. And
Jones, I live by a rule of...
And walks up a wall. I've seen this.
Always skip the opening. Always.
It's a smart move, yeah.
If you're watching an anime, always skip the opening.
Okay, Kyle, I don't like this.
Yeah. Always skip it.
I understand.
It's full of stuff like that.
Yeah, you're right. It's a good point. I don't think that point is invalid at all, but there are just some openings that are really well done
songs,
and get you so hyped up for the show. You mentioned Full Metal Alchemist. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood has just some absolutely wonderful openings. It wouldn't be Mob Psycho 100 to me without the Mob Psycho 100
Yeah, you
opening.
love the original Naruto opening, the first one.
I want to rock.
Yeah, you love that one.
Sometimes I feel like those openings are just so synonymous with the show for good reason that I couldn't live by that rule 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Do you go back once you're done, and watch the opening?
The most recent one, I guess, but no, almost never. Also,
Wow.
like, let's say we are on Crunchyroll, you can skip an easy 3 minutes by cutting that off.
Yeah.
So you can just forward 3
True.
minutes.
The way that I do it is I have a 5-episode rule.
Okay.
Where I will watch, like, if there's a new opening, I will watch 5 episodes with the opening, and then to save those 3 precious minutes, as you
Yeah.
said, I'll skip it after that.
Whoa, I love that
yeah.
5-episode rule.
5-episode rule, because I feel like I give it enough time to sink in. But Kyle, I wanted to ask you, you were actually on the JoJo train, I think, way
Before us,
yeah.
yeah.
not way before, but definitely before Brad and I.
Right.
So what spurred you into watching it?
So, sometimes I'll just put on an anime on the Wii U gamepad and put it like next to my pillow and fall asleep to that.
Dude, jolly.
Yep. But then sometimes, just like Jones, I'll get into it by accident. And so I put on JoJo's Bizarre Adventure as just like, okay, I'll just fall asleep. And same thing, it's like, wait, what?
So this was kind of an accidental
Yeah.
thing for you.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Did you... These things that you select, I've got a couple of questions here. How often do they not work out?
I'd say 50-50.
50-50.
Yep.
Okay. And there wasn't anything that was kind
And
of
by the way,
guiding your
it's
hand
not
to
like
pick JoJo.
It's not like it doesn't work out. It's like I fall asleep, and that's a good.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
a good
yeah.
outcome too.
That's a good outcome too, but I'm
Either way,
saying,
you win.
Yeah.
I'm saying it's not this new obsession. You're not
Right.
going to make it through multiple seasons
I'd say
necessarily. of
it's
the show.
only happened with Hunter x Hunter and JoJo,
Okay.
where it's like this is my nighttime, this is my bedtime, fall asleep, and then like, oh whoa, cool.
Can you remember the last one you fell asleep to? That wasn't one of those? Like the last one you watched that you're just like...
It's Rurouni Kenshin. Like I got into
Kenshin,
it,
okay.
and then like you get to season 3, and it's like, oh, I'm falling asleep. There
Well,
I
you
go.
got that far, though?
Yeah, I did get that far.
Wow.
Yep.
Dang, impressive.
Jones, after watching Phantom Blood and Battle Tendency for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, did you have any more excitement for watching more anime? Did it make you more interested?
Sure. I'm not in a point where I'm like, I have this, 10-hour gap in my work week and I need to
Right.
fill it with something. So yeah, I think the hunger, would most come from that I'm like, I feel completely dissatisfied with my current, banquet of entertainment options that I need to explore things elsewhere. I think how I look at anime is that I'm cool with anime unless something, I'm not going to watch it, I'm not going to do the Kyle test where like I watch it on my pillow, but if something just pops out or I hear you talking about something and it sounds interesting, then I know I will be surrounded by anime. And so,
It's a
Yes.
polite no, Jones. That was a polite no.
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
So it sounds like the way to get Jones in anime is to have it
Well,
ready
yeah,
to go for
Right.
him.
Keep gifting
I am
Jones in.
more interested,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Like I'm more interested than when I started, yes. Because
Cool.
now I'm actually considered like, where do I buy these DVDs of anime? Like I am actually having those thoughts.
The curious
So
thing
that is progress.
to me, Jones, is you finished Battle Tendency, and I remember you being very excited. We were coming in to shoot a frame trap or a tabletop or something like that, the thing we do. And you came up to me and you were like, I finished it, and you were excited. You were telling me about specific scenes from Battle Tendency. There's more to the story.
Yes.
There's
much
two
more.
other
Yeah.
there's two other arcs. There's Stardust Crusaders, which carries over some of the things from Battle Tendency and Phantom Blood, and then you have Diamond is Unbreakable. So why did you not feel compelled to continue?
Because then that would require effort on my part to go get that DVD.
There we go.
I see.
Oh, okay.
I see.
We
So
need
it
the other
is-
one.
it is
You
gotta
just
have it ready.
simply
And the other one
right
literally
there,
like a shooting
right
star
in
just
the-
fell right into my lap. And I was
see.
like, oh, somebody
Okay.
get that in my DVD player.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's my bad. It's on me.
No.
No.
Would you
That's
think
okay.
you see somebody, as motivated as the as the Joes are, throughout history, that I would be motivated myself to go do it. You look at the hardships that they have to overcome, and like the least I have to do is just go to a Best Buy or something and just get it, just order it online.
Yeah, I
But-
don't know if Best Buy will hook you up, man.
Yeah, probably not. Amazon will though.
I think it's time that we move into the next segment.
Spoilers on.
Spoilers on.
Shoot.
Yeah, I wanted to make a clear divide here because I had a specific question for Jones. Brad and I have already talked about things that worked for us and didn't work. Kind of. We did a little bit of it through parts 1 through 4, especially parts 1 through 3. But I want to know, in a general sense, what worked for you and what didn't work for the 2 seasons that you've seen of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
The thing that cracks me up about JoJo, and this is me when I read comic books, this is me when I watch television or film, and when I play video games, is I get hung up on tone a lot. I get really frustrated when I watch something that is very serious and then tries to be very funny at the expense of just ruining all the seriousness, you know, and like likes to dart back and forth between happy, sad, and it's a real interesting mix. That's why we bring up Marvel, but like there is a Marvel way of doing it, you know, of like really trying to handle like these big epic moments, but just kind of sprinkling humor through the old thing. You know, I like the Indiana Jones method. That's kind of like more my speed. And so it really amuses me that I love a show like JoJo so much that just doesn't care. I mean, it's just like we are literally gonna set up this conversation that is physically impossible. This could not happen, and you actually explain how impossible it is while we're doing it. You know, and then, you know, later we'll be, you know, singing a song, and then 5 minutes later we'll, you know, somebody will be dying and it'll be very serious, and then 5 minutes later we'll be in a clown outfit, and I'm like, it's fine, I'm just rolling with it. And so I think that's like the most remarkable thing that I could follow it along and actually like have moments where I'm just like, wow, that was you know, it's really brave of him to go into that fight, you know, and just like, wait, why am I saying that? You know, like, this is ridiculous. And actually thinking, well, wait a minute though, but if he reserved his Hamon that way, then how? Wait, what am I talking about? You know, and like actually getting invested in it.
Mm-hmm. He's falling down the hole. Of anime.
But one of the things that I mentioned earlier before we sat down was, you know, big Batman fan, and I read a lot of Batman in the '80s, and this was old classic like blue and gray. You know, very like again, very posturing Batman. And one of the things I really liked about Batman is he would often explain what he was doing while he was doing it. So he would be doing a roll or be throwing a batarang or something. He'd be explaining, I'm aiming towards that thing. I'm trying to make this thing happen. And, oh, it's a good thing I have this in my belt. And unbeknownst to the person I'm fighting, I've already called the Batmobile, which is an Alfred's on his way.
All in one bubble.
Yeah. All literally just in one, like while he's in midair, you know, like thinking to himself, like, you know, did I leave the microwave on? And I didn't really pick up as a kid. I'm like, that's kind of silly. And like, you know, as I started to read those comics as I got older and older, it started to become a little wacky. And I really appreciate that I kind of felt the same thing. And I loved just the kind of over analysis, especially when you deal with Kung Fu, and especially when you're dealing, or martial arts, and especially when you're dealing with this type of martial art that possibly doesn't exist. I don't know if it's based on anything real that they just kind of like took, you know, cranked it up to 11. But a lot of things that they're explaining, I'm just like, sure, I just gotta take that at face value that that's how that works, or that you were able to do that in, you know, 5 seconds. So I appreciated that as well.
Talking about the quickly explaining stuff, it's kind of a theme throughout JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Hamon, you know, they do contextualize it a little bit, especially with Zappelli and then the stand users. They talk about it, and it gets expanded upon as Diamond is Unbreakable with the bow and arrow. But they don't ever dwell on those supernatural elements. You kind of are just thrown into it. These people can do these things.
I'd say it gets retconned hard, actually.
Yeah, well, and they
just like about breathing, right?
Right.
And then it's like totally thrown out deep into the stands, where like you don't need to be breathing right now.
Yeah,
you don't need
right.
any of those.
Yeah.
And it's weird what they do with Joseph specifically, because he trained with Hamon so hard, and then it's just like, well, you get kind of these gimmicky, funny. You get this gimmicky kind of funny stand, and yeah, they just change it. They just change it between seasons, despite carrying the characters over. Is that okay with you guys?
So one of my favorite things about anime is setting up rules. Setting up these strange rules that everything lives by. It's one thing I love about One Punch Man is they don't have a lot of episodes, but they've set up these rules. They've set up like the alert levels and things like that. Just rules that this world lives by. Hunter x Hunter has some really cool rules that everything lives by, and just like the way the tower works and things like that. And so I care a lot about the rules of a world, and so it is a bummer when they're tossed out sometimes. When stands appeared, a lot of those rules were tossed out, and like the clever tricks, because that's what it is. They're playing games with each other a lot as we go forward more and more. The battles aren't who is stronger. The battle is, here's my nasty stand, here's my nasty ability. I've laid this trap and you're in my trap. How are you going to puzzle solve your way out of it? And I love that. I love that every single time. When I think of some of my favorite episodes, it's like, oh, he was in such a bad situation and he came out of it with such a dirty trick that was so cool. And that I think is what is appealing. And that's what is disappointing, right, Ben, when they throw out the rules, and it's just like, well, this stand's just a big old ghost ship. It's like, wait, what? It's like, yeah, the stand is its own stand. It doesn't have anybody using it. It's just a ship, and you go with it because it's a fun episode. But yeah, it's weird. It's okay for a storyteller to do stuff like that if that's the story they want to tell. Don't get caught up
Yeah.
in your own rules. But I love rules.
I remember talking to you before I had started Stardust Crusaders. I think I had just finished Battle Tendency, and I knew about stands, but I hadn't really seen them in action yet.
Yeah.
And I was like, "What? How does this happen? How do they go from this energy to these sort of like superhero entities that they can control, sort of things?" I didn't understand the jump there, and then I watched it, and I'm like, "Oh, they don't really go over this."
No, it's
But-
there because it's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that cool element I actually think is more important than it seems. While it kind of sucks from they're throwing out the rules perspective that you've talked about, I do think it imbues the characters with a little bit more individuality. It's not just everybody's using this energy. It's all right. No, this is my stand. This is what it can do. This is what makes me different. This is like a different way for me to express myself.
Yeah.
And I feel like they get better, even better with that in Diamond is Unbreakable. Because instead of this globe-trotting adventure in Stardust Crusaders, they're focusing on a small town. And the people that are using the stands are using them for sometimes just very kind of petty, mundane reasons. And I think that's a much more interesting perspective than sort of the good guy, bad guy thing that you see almost exclusively in Stardust Crusaders. Jones, what was sort of your favorite supernatural thing that you saw in either Phantom Blood or Battle Tendency?
I like Green Lantern is one of my favorite superheroes next to Batman. I think. In the
Jones,
DC
really?
universe. Yeah, I love Green Lantern.
Okay.
Love Hal Jordan. Love that concept. And because I think a lot of superheroes that you follow, like Peter Parker, you're supposed to feel bad for. He's a nerd and he gets pushed around and he gets to fight back. You know, a lot of these people are like, oh, this horrible thing happened to him. And like, Hal's not a nice guy. Like, Hal messes up. Like, Hal's kind of an alcoholic. Like, Hal, you know, like, and so when he gets the ring, he's like, well, I don't deserve this. Like, why was I chosen? And a lot of how his power works is will. So he's like, I have to know I can do this. I have to put all of my focus into this. I can't be thinking about anything else. And a lot of times that gets taken for granted. It's a very like 1940, 1950, having the will to be a superhero. But if you like in present day kind of break that down and think about like how hard is it to maintain that? And
It's
Superman
super
doesn't
hard.
have to sweat will. Superman's like, man,
Yeah.
I just, you know, point my eyes there and somebody dies. Where I love having that be difficult. That like Hal's in space and his you know, his ring is covering him so he doesn't suffocate, you know, and it's like even if he's having a conversation with the Justice League, he's still got to be a part of his brain that's like, don't suffocate. And so I love that the patience of that training, you know, like you know, Luke going to Dagobah and being all pissed off because Yoda's like, calm down. And so like I mean breathing I think is great because our society is so fast, and so I like just the calmness of that, and you know, balancing things on a finger and you know, dancing around on spikes and stuff like that. I love anytime it's nimble or anytime they achieve something that's like impossible with balance. If I was a parent and my child was into this and I saw my child like doing yoga because they watched JoJo, I'd be like, yes, like cool. Like this kid's interested in being like, I think I can actually do that. It's not just like some Street Fighter move that's like, well, I can't shoot things out of my hands, but the person's like, hey, I wonder if I could balance on my feet, or I wonder if I could run that faster. So yeah, I enjoyed that. I don't know if that specifically answers your question.
Sure. I guess drilling into it a little bit more specifically, let's just, to the whole panel, let's talk about the first part, Phantom Blood.
Okay.
Because it is definitely the shortest, in a lot of ways, the most simple, I think, in a lot of other ways as well.
Yeah.
Jones, comparing it, what?
I'm just thinking of that JoJo, man, and when you say just simple, he is just such a simple
Jonathan,
man.
Yeah.
he's
Very, he's a rock.
Yeah.
just
yeah.
Well, I think he's very emotional.
Sure, but I mean,
Yeah.
he never sways from what, you know.
Yeah.
He doubts himself, but like
And just
his
how-
goal is the same the entire time.
And I
he's
just
pretty
think of like
straightforward.
Ario Speedwagon like crying because of how good he is.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, he's such a good man. I get like that's so funny to me. Simple.
He almost, he reminds me of sort of like a Greek tale of a hero.
Yeah.
Where there's nothing normal about them. Even like just a simple day is just every emotion is over exaggerated. Like, I'm not just going to go do this. I'm going to do it because I feel it is the absolute right thing to do. Sort of a thing. And then you contrast that with Dio, who Oh my god.
Kills a dog.
Danny,
Yeah.
No.
But he doesn't just kill the dog. Also, what is up with the abuse of dogs throughout JoJo's Bizarre Adventure?
I don't
It just
know, man.
keeps coming
Oh,
up
it feels
over and
bad.
over and
It's an
over
easy
again.
way to make you dislike a character. It's just honestly, it's a little cheap.
It is cheap,
Yeah.
but you and I were talking about this before we shot the show. In part 4, the killer bites off the face of a dog.
Oh my goodness.
So there's this old
Terrible,
man, and he's
but
taking his
also
dog
hilarious.
for a walk, and he picks up the little dog, and this killer, this murderer, bites off the dog's face, and then he spits the blood in the old man's mouth. Was
Just an easy path.
it's
Easiest
just
path
easy.
to disliking that person is
All right.
well,
Well,
kick a dog.
I think that's one of the
Yeah.
things that cracked me up so much when I started JoJo is like how you go from 0 to I hate Dio in
Yeah.
2 seconds.
Yeah.
You know, like
Because you could easily be sympathetic toward Dio. He had a tough life. You could easily feel bad for him, and they're just like, no,
Bad dad,
don't feel
like
bad,
Dio
don't feel
would do
bad.
something to Joe,
Yeah.
and I would just laugh
Yeah.
out loud, like, oh my god,
Yeah.
I get it, I hate him, like, oh my god.
So Kyle, you're right. They do contextualize Dio's past with his bad father,
Yeah.
who is kind of this no good scumbag thief.
Even when Dio was a kid, you could say, I mean, he just had it in him. Like,
Oh, yeah, he's real
you could
right.
see it,
So
you
that's
know,
that's
like-
what I wanted to ask. Is do you think they contextualize the evilness of Dio enough? Do you think he's given enough of a backstory? Do you think that backstory is convincing?
I do not
Yeah.
think there is such a thing as true evil. I think that first part's like, I beg to differ. I present Dio.
Yeah, I
You're
just
like,
hated
all right,
the
it's hard to argue
Joestars
with that.
so much.
So Jones, is that what Dio is to you? Is he just sort of this embodiment of evil character?
Yeah, I mean, just it's like because there's all sorts of interesting characters. I mean, something like a Joker. You know, it's like I could write you a very interesting Joker redemption story, like whether that you believe that could actually happen or not. But like the best villains are the multi-layered villains. Whereas like you have somebody like Kefka that in any instance, whether he's pretending or not, just doesn't care. And so I like that even in those moments where Dio's like, I've figured out the error of my ways. And you're like, oh, and then deep down he's like, and it's like,
Yeah.
he just does.
Yeah, he
There's
does that
nothing you can
shit-eating
do.
grin all the time.
There's no side of the table. There's nothing you could offer him in any instance that is better than making everybody's life completely awful. And that's the funny thing. I think the thing that initially cracked me up so much about Dio is that he cared about, is it Joseph in the first one? And then Jonathan's in
Yeah.
the second one? He cares about
no,
Joseph.
it's Jonathan
Jonathan,
and then
then-
Joseph.
yeah.
And he cares about Jonathan at all. It's
Yeah.
just like, just leave Jonathan alone. You could go be a god on the other side of the planet.
But
Like,
he wants to ruin that
He's like,
life.
no.
Yeah. Yeah.
my nemesis.
I can't remember.
That's his only
specifically.
flaw. It's the only issue. But again, with Joker, it's like when Batman doesn't come to stop Joker, and he's like, "Put the money back," and they're like, "What? We're getting away," and he's like, "It's not fun." Like,
Yeah.
there's no point to it.
I can't remember specifically. I think when I was talking about Jonathan, I might have accidentally said Joseph. I don't remember. So
It's okay.
If I did,
Can't imagine how that would happen.
We're all friends here.
Yep. Jones, I want to compare Dio to the Pillarmen, the
Sure.
antagonists.
Oh
of-
man, night and day. I mean,
Yeah,
t-
very
like-
night and day. Which did you respond to more and why?
I
Same to you, Kyle.
responded to both of them. I think Dio is ultimately more satisfying because there was that connection. Because it was just this classic rivalry that had spanned for so many years. Whereas like every time I would bump, what are the names? The trio. Like every time you would,
Cars.
the Cars.
AC/DC.
AC/DC.
Every time you would be reunited with them, it was
Yeah.
like something would happen, and I'd be like, oh, "How do they feel about this? I don't know. They might not care about this." Because sometimes they're like, this is the buzzing of flies to me. I don't care. Like that. It's interesting when they first fight them. They're just like, "And how do we get out of this cave? And where did I park my car?" And they're literally fighting them. They're just like, "Stop it!" like I don't even. Yeah, this is not even like a challenge. So in some instances, I'm like, would they care about this? I'm not sure. Whereas I always kind of was in Dio's head. I'm always like, no, I know how Dio's going to react to this. And, oh my God, he's back. Where they were such a force of nature that was kind of scary. It kind of reminded me of, not to bring up Avatar again, I don't know if that's like, is there a sour subject in the anime community with Avatar where people are like,
Very
oh,
sour.
Avatar's really great. And they're like, Avatar's not anime.
Very,
but like,
very sour.
One of
Is
my
there?
favorite Avatar episodes is they're running from this bad guy who's chasing them, and they literally will like fly somewhere and fall asleep and take a nap and be like awoken by the enemy just barreling down on them, and so they like run again, and it's like the T-1000. They're like, we have to fight this thing. We can't run away from it. And so that inevitability of the in battle tendency was fascinating. Just this ticking clock where it was like you are going to have to fight them, and it up until literally that battle happens, it seems impossible. It seems like you're going to lose this. Also because you'd already seen his ancestor fall already.
what I like about the Pillarmen is like I think when the mask is first introduced, it's like introduced in like the first episode, and it's like, and this mask that will change the fate of the JoJo's forever, and it's dropped. The mask isn't dropped.
Yeah.
But I like that the Pillarmen is kind of like justification for the masks.
Yes.
And so there is a direct connection there. It's like so you're kind of like wait. Where did the vampire mask come from? It's like, here we go.
Yes.
Pillarmen. Yes, they're super strong. And one thing I really like is I think you can feel sympathetic for the Pillarmen. And I love that they're just like, JoJo, that was a good fight. You know what? Why don't you take some time? Why don't you train up? Why don't you go talk to Lisa, and then we'll fight you. Like, I like them. I like the Pillarmen in a weird way.
Very Dragon Ball Z right there.
They're this huge threat. They're
Yep.
so much more powerful than everything around them, but they have a sense of honor.
I was
Yes.
never angry at them.
Yeah.
And I was angry at Dio.
Yeah, they're warriors.
I was frustrated at Dio.
Whereas Dio would take every little dirty advantage that he could every single time.
He put that mask on.
You said two things that really resonated with me. The mask, the way the mask is introduced is kind of hilarious.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of just there. This thing that becomes so vital to the storyline is just kind of in the JoJo household.
Yeah.
And then when it's time for it to enter, because JoJo or Jonathan is studying it.
Yeah.
He's just kind of poking at it, and Dio knows and he uses it, and it becomes this thing that gives him these powers and makes him this villain that we see for a very long time. But that's why you nailed it. That's why the Pillarmen are probably my favorite villains so far, is because the way that they set it up is these are the people responsible for the mask, and the way that they're introduced, where Cars doesn't speak, and you see him in that lab, and he contorts his body to escape. I think it's such a good scene because we kind of you describe it as a force of nature, and that's initially how we're presented, the Pillarmen. But then over time, we learn that they're very intelligent. They can absolutely hold conversations. That they do have this sense of honor, and I think that slow piece by piece building is something that we don't always get with JoJo villains. I think a lot of JoJo villains are just kind of they are what they are up front, and it doesn't really change all that much.
Well, yeah, those parts focus on villains. I think on like certain villains way more like later on part 3, like we said, like every week kind of new villain kind of thing going on.
Right. It is. It's just totally a different change in structure, but I think I like the
yeah.
build up in
me
part
too.
2 more than the sort of throwaway villain of the week thing that we get in later parts.
And the stakes, just that Jonathan dies at the end.
In the boat, yeah.
I was floored because I didn't really know this was a generational thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I did see that Dreamcast art of the JoJo, and I'm like, I wonder how like he just live for a long time?
Yeah.
And then he dies. I'm like, oh, it was so sad. He died on that boat to take down Dio.
Dio just takes his body too, man.
Oh yeah. Oh, we don't know it at that time. Little Dio head.
It's just Jonathan's body.
Oh,
It's so funny.
It's so wrong. It's so wrong.
Brandon, was there anything that you really didn't like? Were there any tonal shifts, jokes, character moments, anything underexplained? Was there anything that when you think back with your time on JoJo, you're like, that kind of stuck in my craw?
Sure. I thought the moment was really silly. Not silly in the good way like JoJo likes to do, but why did you make me think about that? Because now I'm thinking about the logistics of how that could work. And I think one of the big things that they do well in the first season, what are they, seasons or parts or chapters or what's like the official term?
Let's call them parts.
Yeah,
Parts.
I'd say parts.
In part 1 is Ario, being like, I don't know anything about fighting, so all I can do is stand here and give you the colored commentary, and oh my god, these things are happening. And so there's nothing he can do. And so he's like, I'm there, I'm involved, but like I can't go in and save him. And sometimes you will have strong people that are around each other, but for some reason, that they'll set up, they're trapped or their powers are taken away and they can't help each other. Where like 2's a little more open. And there was a scene at the end where like they're fighting and like the army shows up and they're like, we're here. And I was like, where were you? Like, where have you been this entire season? Like,
Wait, that's not the army though. It's the.
Nazis?
It's like Ario and his like commandos.
Oh, okay.
The foundation.
And
I
like
thought
his
it's the guys
friend
from
that he
the
meets in the beginning of the alleyway, who's like gone for half the season, just shows up at the end, like, I got the army with me, and you're like, where have you been? Like, why now? Why did it take you that long to get here? What have you been doing up until now? They were very involved in the beginning of that season, and then they just like And I get it. It's a very popular, story device to like literally right at that last moment. Oh no, I'm gonna lose. Oh, here comes the cavalry.
Yeah, if they showed up earlier, Jones, it would be a bad story.
I understand that, but it just they do such a good job. It seems overly important to them to stress, no, these people can't do this because of this very specific reason.
Sure.
And that was just kind of like a Hail Mary at the end. It was just like, and they come in and they didn't save the day. Like it was still up to the Joes, as it always is. But I remember that being different than them setting up a situation where I'm like, okay, clearly they couldn't have had that conversation in that amount of time, or clearly that was a little more dramatic than that needed to be. And like those moments where I'm like, that actually makes this better. A moment like that, I was like, okay, well now this just kind of trivializes this fight and makes their position in the story, that this random street kid that he picks up who's wearing the same exact outfit, he's in the middle of the battlefield with his little cap, yeah, okay, that this is bad. I don't like this. Yeah, I don't like that part of the story. I can objectively say that's bad. That's not like a style thing. That's just a safe
bad.
story.
Kyle, having seen parts 1 through 4,
yeah,
if you had to rank them, what is the order you'd put them in?
Part 2, number 1.
Part 2, number 1.
Part 1, number 2.
Part 1, number 2.
Mm-hmm. All right, I've seen the top 2.
Part 4, number 3. Part 3, number 4.
Just kind of some discussions that I've seen online. I do see a lot of love for part 2, but very few people, I think, would put part 1 so high. Why would you put Phantom Blood above Stardust Crusaders and Diamonds Unbreakable?
Okay, so parts 3 and 4, Stardust Crusaders and Diamonds Are Unbreakable, are to me regular. It becomes regular anime. As we talked about the Monster of the Week, it becomes this thing where we get a new problem each week, and we're facing a new enemy each week. That's less exciting to me. That is what drew me into parts 1 and 2, is these raising stakes of these same villains and these same goals, and escalating those. And so that's why I'm into those. I'm like, this is a different kind of show. I'm into this. I'm into these elaborate plans and these elaborate tricks, and they mean more if that's a character you've known for a while, as opposed to just a new character that's here this 1 week and then will be finished off and we'll meet another one next week. And so that's why I rank those 2 highly. I think that, those characters change and they matter, and I think that in parts 3 and 4 you see some dragon. You just see them sandbagging, just to add episodes.
Typical anime.
Like. Yep. Yeah. That said, when I think of some of my favorite episodes, they're totally filler sandbagging episodes. When I think of like the guy who's like a gambler, and
in Stardust Crusaders?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like super hot, and he uses like a little bit of chocolate beneath the glass to like make it melt, and then like that's insane. That's so funny. But like those
I don't even know the scene, but
the drama behind those moments of him just hiding a little bit of chocolate beneath the glass, and just like the realization, it's like, like adding that drama to such a stupid little thing is so fun to me.
I think my favorite scene from part 2 is the spaghetti. When he's like, ugh, this guy, when he like first meets his cousin or his like friend of a friend or something.
The
like
black spaghetti.
Yeah.
But
when he first like overhears, like, ugh, that he's like so frustrated about this guy like 4 tables over. That, like, enough to like shoot a projectile at him. Like,
what's he do? He like flicks a pea?
He makes them like little darts, and he's like flings them at him, and he like catches them and throws them back.
It's like, oh, you have to
do that.
Yeah.
Kyle,
so good.
Kyle, you're so right about how some of my favorite moments are with those Monster of the Week villains, because they can get so creative with them. But I also think there are times where that falls flat on its face. Do you remember in Stardust Crusaders, the Heat villain that they run up against, where he's just making it really, really, really hot? And the way that they resolve that is they're just like, oh, I can see him right there, the setup that he's using.
And it's like mirrors, and he's hiding behind something?
And they're just like, oh, okay, there he is. And then they just take care of it immediately.
Yeah. That's rough.
I remember thinking I could have just skipped these episodes.
That was an easily skippable episode. Yeah.
And so the ups and downs of both, I think, Stardust Crusaders, and I think that happens too in Diamond is Unbreakable.
Right. Whereas I think in the first 2... it follows that rule of because of what happened last episode, this is happening, and then the next episode as well, because that just happened, this is happening.
But you get a little bit of the same thing we were talking about, not like Monster of the Week, but like there are times when, you know, Dio or the other characters would like I'm gonna summon this guy. Like I loved in the first season when they bring the two Arthurian knights.
Yes.
They like come out, and so they were kind of like they were just in that episode, and or like one was in one episode and one was in the next one, and he battled them.
Yeah, those undead knights.
I gotta be honest, I watched like the cut down like 3-hour versions. I may have missed those nights.
I love that because
have you not seen?
Yeah.
Okay, it's worth it. That battle
because that was very Castlevania to me, Brad.
Yes.
The idea of taking someone from history or from literature that you may or may not know, and then kind of like bending their story to add them. Like,
oh yeah, I love that.
I have no memory of that, Jones.
It's one of my favorite fights.
And there's a lot of I love honor. I love how that's present. That there's a lot of instances where like they will stop and be like, no, I'm not going to fight you, or that's always great. Nice change of pace.
We talked we had you rank the parts that you've seen so far.
Yeah.
I want to talk specifically about the JoJo's.
Great.
And how you would rank them.
It would be the exact same.
It'd be the exact same. So it'd be Joseph, Jonathan, Josuke, and Jotaro?
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, no, Jotaro before Josuke.
Really? So you like Josuke the least?
Yeah.
I've really come around on Josuke a lot.
Yeah, I think Jonathan's my least favorite one.
I think Jonathan's my least
I
favorite.
be honest, they're all great characters, but that's just how I'd rank them.
Sure.
Wait, Jonathan's your least favorite?
Yeah.
Jonathan might be my least favorite.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah.
But he's so nice.
He's such a passionate, cool guy, yeah. Who's just always knocked down, always just...
I know, he's like the typical hero. That's what he is.
Just like, when I just think of like a joke, like just like him like bleeding and just like... and, like the blood just spurts out, but he's like still fighting.
Yeah. I think with him, I feel like I've seen that character before. It doesn't, when I think of JoJo, I don't think of Jonathan. I think of sort of the Ari of Jotaro, or I think of, oh, he made fun of my crazy hair of Josuke, or I think of just Joseph and the Tommy gun. I just feel like all of those characters have a much more distinct... I like Jonathan.
Yeah.
I enjoy Jonathan's story, but he just
more to him.
Just doesn't register with me in the same way. How would you compare Jonathan and Joseph?
Oh, they're tough, man. I'd probably they'd be neck and neck for me because I felt it was, and that's one thing that I think really when I started to get into part 2, I was like, oh, this is what this show is. This is great. It's kind of like Doctor Who, where I'm like, it's so clever that they. I mean, it's obviously based on the manga, and so it's not like that concept they invented for the anime itself, but this idea that this story can keep going forever, that you can just keep adding in new scenarios, and but yeah, it was just there were just two sides to the same coin, I thought, and so what I liked about one character, I also liked about the other, but for opposite reasons.
I think that it wouldn't be as effective to have Jonathan without Joseph. Or
Joseph was initially a little bit of a bitter pill to swallow. I was like, whoa, he's different. Okay,
that's what they are.
Wow, this show just changed a lot.
They're complete opposites.
That's the hero of the same story. It's like,
you know, like Jonathan's a little stuffy, but the bonus is he's not whiny. And there's definitely like whiny Joseph moments, like Lisa, you know, like he completely turns around in 5 seconds and it's like, I'm so sorry, Lisa, you're the best trainer ever. Like, I'm sorry that I just bitched and moaned for 5 episodes.
Jones, you haven't gotten to experience this, but something that I really like that JoJo's Bizarre Adventure does is how it takes the main characters of previous seasons and puts them in a different position.
Speedwagon. I mean, I got that.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
Transition
you have.
between
Yeah.
one and two.
But then he like dies in that first episode, doesn't he?
You're led to think that he does, and I was way too happy when he came back.
Right.
I was
Wait,
like,
does he come back?
He comes back at the
in
end.
season 2. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Near the end. Yeah.
So yeah, you did
him.
kind of experience that with Speedwagon, but I guess what I was immediately thinking of is how Joseph is in season 2 versus how he is in season 3, and even how Jotaro is in season 3 versus how he is in season 4.
I got a little tease of Joseph at the end. I saw him in the train station. He's like, "Oh, get away from me," or something.
Oh,
and
like, I mean, you've seen
old man Joseph.
You've seen Oh My God.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's
great,
him.
Great.
That's Joseph.
Oh goodness. Great.
But in Battle Tendency, Joseph is just presented as just such this slick, cool character who always says the right thing at the right time and can always, get himself out of a tricky situation through cleverness, and that's still kind of present in part 3. But there's this comedic relief element to it.
I feel like he's more clumsy, and bumbling in it.
Yeah, a good example.
He's got the worst stand
because he's not the most powerful.
He's got the worst stand.
He's not the most powerful anymore.
Yeah.
Right. Do you remember the episode with the magnet stand user, and what happens with Joseph and Avdol, where they get magnetized together?
Oh yeah,
that sounds familiar.
Yeah,
like crotch to crotch.
Yeah,
yeah. And doesn't she like hide her in her like boobs? Doesn't she like hide the magnets in her boobs?
I think so.
Yeah. That's a whack episode.
It's a whack episode.
Like,
what a show.
Yeah.
I'm rushing out and buying that DVD right now.
I really want you to see those 2 episodes specifically.
Wow. One thing that I appreciate, would you say this show's for kids?
No way.
But I mean, maybe not kids, not like 8-year-olds, but like
teenagers, early teens.
I mean, it's like it's not like offensive. They don't swear a lot. It's just gory as all hell. I mean,
I think they do. I think
from
they do
the get-go, like literally, like 2 minutes in, you see like mangled flesh, like But which is one of the things that I appreciated if I had come across the show as a kid and I had gotten into this as a kid and I'm like running around my backyard like pretending to be JoJo, and they do a little bit more of this in season 2 because season 1's kind of like this is hormone, this is how you do it. In season 2, you're constantly meeting people like, whoa, how do you hormone? That's crazy. Is I like how they make very mundane things extremely powerful. Like who's the name of the guy with the spaghetti? Not Joseph, but
Zeppelin,
his rival.
Zeppeli,
but what's his? That's the family line. But what's
his actual first name? Don't remember.
Oh god, I can't tangent. Now there's so many things to think about. I can't remember specifically the point I was making. Oh dear, I'll get back to it. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Wait, you were talking about people playing around in the backyard?
Yes. He's got bubbles. And he's like, beware of my powerful bubbles.
Yes,
and I'm like, you're what? Mm-hmm. I mean, think about it. You're like, oh well. I mean, if anything is electric, it's kind of like if everyone's Gambit, basically. We're like, I can just touch a thing and then make it into a bomb. Bubbles would be tough if they were just a bunch of, it's like we see something like, oh, kids, there's a big ocean of bubbles. It's like, imagine if each of those were grenades, but they were really light and floating. You're like, wow, you made a thing, so I like that idea of, you see a kid, it's like, the kid's just in the background playing with forks all day. I don't even know what he's doing. And it's just like, I'm imbuing them with hormone. And I just imagine you just kind of gift wrap this for the younger crowd as being like, you can make, doesn't matter what it is, you can turn it into a discipline, you can turn it into a fighting style.
It is Caesar Zappelli.
Caesar
Zappelli, nice.
But the also Joseph and I don't know what you would call them, but like the bolus, like his little that is demonstrated very effectively in the opening. That's going to come into play.
Aren't those only around for one fight though?
Yeah.
Weird.
I think he tries them later, but then they're not as effective.
Oh yeah.
Like, you were talking about the show being for kids, and this was a point that Brad, you and I did not discuss, but I think is kind of an interesting thing to mull over. I feel like JoJo in America and for us has only become a big deal recently. It's only gotten popular recently. We've only experienced these stories recently. Phantom Blood, its original run, was 1987.
Crazy.
That was a long time ago.
30 years ago.
Right, yeah. And even the Battle Tendency was 87 to 89. Stardust Crusaders was 89 to 92. Diamond is Unbreakable is 92 to 95.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
That's really crazy.
And so you were talking about this being for kids, and I think of that time, these references to Led Zeppelin, to REO Speedwagon, to AC/DC would probably hit a little bit more, a little bit harder. Do you think they still work now? Are there any parts of the story that feel old to you? If I had not told you that Phantom Blood was 87 and Battle Tendency started in 87, would you have guessed that?
No, I probably would have guessed 20th century. Mm-hmm. I would. This definitely feels like kind of an older storytelling style, just from what I've seen, like from that era. It would remind me of like these villains, like it's kind of seems a little Power Rangers-y to me, like just kind of like in that vein, that tone of that era. But another thing too that screams kids to me, again, not that it was made for kids, but just that like I would be attracted to that as a youngster, is the whole like, I have beaten you, and like, no you haven't. Like, I added this, I subverted the rules and did this clever thing, and now
Jones,
I am the victor. It's like,
you don't need to be a youngster to appreciate that, man.
Right, but
I love that.
I mean, that's kind of what we're all about here.
Yeah.
It's like anytime we can do that.
Yeah.
My diorama, but if you
Can you imagine us dramatizing our dioramas and just like
somebody
just like
pops up in the back
like go Jones,
son of a bitch.
yeah.
But just that, I think there was like just seeing like literally the villain just being like, I'm about to kill you, and then JoJo just starts laughing. Like it just that's so funny to me.
Well, my favorite thing in the world is when he says what you're about to say, and then you say it anyway. You're about to say,
that joke,
why did he do that?
Yeah,
why did he do that? It's like, oh. Every single time I'm amazed. I'm like clapping for him. Like, how'd you know? How'd you know what he was gonna say? You know,
because what's better than actually like defeating these things, or just pissing them off?
Yeah.
Like how that's like what was more impressive, the fact that Joseph was able to like best them in battle, or he's able to stare right in his eye and like call him a pansy, or like be like, actually no.
Yeah. Oh, I love that so much.
And I just think kids, I just see kids playing JoJo, and just them being like, especially because it encourages you to imagine your own wacky characters,
If I saw a little tiny kid, preschool age, kindergarten age, and Jotaro cosplay, and if that kid came up to me and said, yeah, all right, I would just be
see like a 5-year-old going, holy shit.
Yeah, exactly. Brad, does anything about JoJo that you've seen so far feel old to you?
Feel old? I would say if I was like the first time I'd start it, I'd be like, this animation style is definitely older feeling, It definitely reminds me of like 70s and 80s anime.
What do you think specifically reminds you of that?
Just like, I mean, it's literally the style of like how the characters are drawn. That's what it reminds me of. Like when I see these characters, I think back to like Macross and like how those characters look, how their hairstyles, how their clothes are, and everything like that. That's what reminds me of. That's what
I want to say. Like, it's so distinct though.
Yeah, it is. That's what I'd say. I'd think at first, but then after I kept watching it, I'd be like, oh, this is just the style of this show big time, and it carries over.
Like what I love about this JoJo style. Forgive me for not knowing the artist's name. I love
Hirohiko Araki.
Nice, Ben. Hirohiko Araki. Giving the men eyelashes is something nobody does, and it's so effective.
Yeah.
I really love the aesthetic. And I think I hate a lot of like early 90s anime because of the way they draw eyes. And these eyes are on point always.
Okay, there's a lot I want to unpack here.
Sure.
And you're actually, that was the next thing that I wanted to throw at both of you. Brad and I have talked a little bit about what we responded to with this style of JoJo, but I want to ask you guys specifically what you responded to, but you're kind of throwing me for a loop
Sorry
here.
I said that. I'm sorry I said that.
No. It's okay. It's interesting. I want to dig into it. What is it about a lot of 90s anime where the eyes don't work for you?
Whenever you go, it's about proportions.
Okay.
If you do like this much eye space, it's too much.
Okay.
And it's got to be. They went a little out of control at a certain point.
What would you say was the point where you saw like what anime where you're like,
I don't know what I'm thinking of. I really don't. It's like Witch something.
Witch Hunter.
It might be Witch Hunter. I think Witch Hunter eyes look stupid.
Okay.
I've never seen Witch Hunter, so I don't know.
Like I'm thinking back to like Voltron kind of stuff like that. Maybe some goofy eyes and that kind of thing. I think that was just the style back then, like a little bigger maybe.
No, Gundam eyes on point always.
But you talk about them giving
Gundam
everybody, the men, the eyelashes in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Yeah.
And to me, I love the mix of masculinity and femininity.
Big time on these
Everyone on the show is fabulous.
Everyone's so sexy.
Everybody.
Everyone is sexy.
Everybody is posing all the time in every shot, everything they're doing.
Do you think
they're worried about how they look from every
Do you think
angle.
it feels natural?
No, but it's honest to what it's unique.
Okay.
It's honest to what that is.
What is that?
Fashion. That's the stylishness.
But it's strange because you set up this ability, again, this focus, constantly being aware of like your breath and sensing your environment and how much you weigh and like how the wind, and all these things that they're just hyper aware of. So if you have these people, they're always, just like looking like they're ready to spring forth at any moment. It fits. Like, I mean, not people like Speedwagon, but
so I just finished part 4 last night. The last episode we talk about freeze frames. Jones, it's a character who is standing normally and then sticks out the butt like this. freeze frame. That's it. Last frame of the show.
Yeah, I think
It's the weirdest thing.
Well, that's
just this total like for no reason, and then like end.
Well, but like the Pillar Men. I mean, when
Oh,
they first
yeah.
introduced
Yeah.
them, they're literally like, these people they will squash you with their pinky,
Yeah.
and look at that ass. It's like, I mean, like this tan toned buttocks just in your face, like constantly. Like the end, just and there's going to this butt, like scrolling by. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
he looks amazing. Like,
What can I say?
got a mullet, the
Subscribe
butt's
button.
cut, like,
Subscribe button.
Focusing on a couple of the JoJo's specifically, when you think about Joseph, he's kind of an everyman, right?
Yeah.
He kind of this streetwise, sassy kid that a bit of a punk, but as Jones said, so fabulous.
Yeah.
Very stylish.
Mm-hmm.
Even Jotaro, who's sort of this, like, I could care less, very apathetic. Like, you look at that hat, look at that belt he has,
yeah,
the
and,
jacket.
like the chain, like on
Right.
his jacket.
Everything is just so considered. How do they make that work? How do they make them so stylish and feel somewhat relatable, or at least not vain, I guess?
There's like episodes where everybody has to poop.
Yeah, okay, that's it.
That's all you got to do.
That's it.
Everybody's got to poop.
That the Polnareff episode when they're in India and he just wants to go to the bathroom and he goes in and he has to deal with the pig.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite.
I honestly like
my
the
favorite
research
scenes.
of that season. I like just you'll go to a new area and it'll have like a narrator say, and here in this part of the world, this is the tradition they do there, and then we have the people walking into that situation. Actually, I like that kind of research. But yeah, I think that they all get hurt. They all make mistakes. They all, even if they're super cool, they'll get punched in the mouth,
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're not immortal.
Yeah.
And that's why, as someone who hasn't experienced a lot of anime, that's why I have these moments where I'm like, oh, maybe I am in sync with this story. So kind of going into it expecting like, this is going to be hard for me to follow. There's going to be characters I just don't understand the humor, or maybe where they're coming from, or maybe it's like referencing other shows and stuff like that like I'm not familiar with. But at the same time, like I really do identify with the characters. Like they really do make decisions that like affect me emotionally, but at the same time we're being extremely over the top. And like you said, I think less with Jonathan, because his big fault is that he's just such a like goody two shoes, like no matter what, like until the bitter end. Whereas I think you'd have a little more of an arc with Joseph and him kind of coming to terms with like, okay, I need to calm down a little bit. Specifically one moment with Lisa where he definitely does like a big 180, and it's kind of like, okay, I will be the dutiful student. I understand the value in hard work. And so when they have those moments when other characters will look at Joseph and be like, you know what? You are a bag of hot air. Do you know that? Like you just did that totally incorrectly. And I'm like, oh, maybe the show is aware. Like I thought he was just doing that because that's how characters just talked in anime. That was just the style and everyone was used to that. But they're definitely put in check, power wise, and even just having characters coming in that shut them down emotionally.
We haven't done this before on EZAnime, but Kyle, you mentioned that you were thinking about your favorite episodes of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to ask you guys to say episode numbers or names or anything like that. We don't need to go that intense. But I was wondering if you could name one episode or a couple of episodes throughout the series that you've seen so far that were your absolute favorite and why.
Cool. So the episodes that stand out to me, we kind of covered those filler ones. Mm-hmm. I love the one where they're just playing the baseball video game.
Yep.
Yes. Again, because it's like an impossible trap that they somehow work out of. I like scenes where there's deaths of main characters that you care about. Mm-hmm. It doesn't happen a lot, and when it does, it's like, yeah, you put things on the line. This isn't an anime that's meant to last forever. You're willing to let some of those characters die. I guess. Oh, it's so hard to pick favorites. I really like all of those. So it's funny that 3 is like my least favorite, and those are those standout episodes. Mm-hmm. I love the part of 2, and I don't know if this is how many episodes this is, when JoJo and Caesar is his name are training under Lisa.
Yes.
I really like that.
Like when they're climbing the tower or whatever?
Yeah, I love that kind of thing. I love this kind of earning of your power, and that they do become stronger, but we have to see these characters earn it. And I loved, again, that scenario of the Pillarmen saying, just putting an arbitrary time limit on fighting them again. That's so fun to me. And so it's like, hey, JoJo, you need to get good until this time, and then they're going to fight you. And those are the stakes. And this person will be able to teach you. Secretly your mom, bro. But, like, it's cool. I like it.
I also...
Yeah, that was one of my least favorite moments in the show.
Secretly your mom,
He was,
bro?
like, ogling, like, Lisa, and he's like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah! And it's like, you're invading her privacy, bro. And he's also your mom.
So, wait, Jones, you watched that dubbed, right?
Yeah.
So, like, that's so strange to think about. Like, when you say lines like that. Like, that's what I'm thinking about. Like, that's crazy. That is crazy, actually.
That's a little messed up.
Yeah.
Him, and he's like, if only you weren't so ugly, I'd come back for you. Goodbye. You know, like, yeah, there's some some powerfully sexist moments on the show. But then again, it's also
really...
self-aware. So I'm like, am I supposed to? Is that a?
He's a dog.
Am I supposed to knock him down and peg her too?
You are.
That, I guess?
Absolutely,
right.
you are.
It's too bad.
Yeah.
Don't like him too much.
Yeah.
Jones, any particular scenes or episodes that stand out for you?
yeah.
You got it. Locked and loaded.
Well, I brought it up earlier, but that those two knights that come back, and specifically because there's one that's like a giant, Frankenstein monster, just this big crazy guy.
Tarkus.
He's round 2, but round 1 is the swordsman, and to me that whole thing has like the best of every episode of it's got the Ario commenting the humanity from the side, and like one of my favorite jokes, again, I'm thinking like, is this bad writing or is this brilliant writing, is him being like, the thing is, I only learned about Hamon like 2 months ago, and I couldn't possibly be a Hamon fighter because I don't know anything about Hamon. But you see what JoJo's doing right now is accessing the Hamon in his toe to do it through, and it's like, how the hell do you know that? So just this like back and forth between like, isn't Hamon fascinating? And like, I'm the Vince Scully of Hamon fights.
We need him.
But so you have a little bit of that.
Yeah.
You have just the completely asinine logic of him, like JoJo, like underwater and being like, the thing that he's expecting me to go back to the surface.
Yeah.
But to survive, I'll go even deeper. And it's like, what? And then he's like, I found bubbles in the rocks, and I'll breathe the bubbles. And you're like, okay, it kind of makes sense, but like, lucky that you found bubbles, dude. Like, lucky that they were actually there. Like, I'm sure there's a pretty big space in the bottom of that lake to search for those bubbles. You just happen to find them.
Yeah.
And that moment of the swordsman realizing, wait a minute, like, you were just about, you were just gonna let me kill you. That's crazy. And showing that like he overcame this battle not by fighting, by actually not fighting, and that that was actually more brave and tougher than anything he could have done, is just stand there and be like, no, I trust in him that he's not going to do this. He's not going to follow through on this sword strike. It's cool. Again, it's cool for like the younger audience to see that and be like, that's neat that he did that. He's really brave, and that braveness isn't always just like, oh, shoot that guy, drop that bomb.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Brad, how about you? We never got a specific episode of episodes out of you.
Favorite moments, both with Dio, of course. The first time they confront Dio in like the castle in part 1, when he like rips some dude's head off with his hand, I was like, oh my god! That was amazing. And in part 3, where JoJo was fighting Dio, like in the streets.
Dude, the world?
Yeah, when he's using the world.
Oh my god.
So cool, dude.
The world might be one of my favorites.
It's so
the lead up
good.
to discovering, like, the hype.
Yes.
The world had
figure it out,
episodes
how it
and
works.
episodes of hype.
The sacrifice needed to figure out what was going on with Dio's stand. The fact that Jotaro, and it's a perfect example of what Jones was talking about, where they're like, he's kind of going through his head how he's doing all of these things. That happens with the world, and Dio's saying, all right, I can move for this many seconds now, and he's just, but as it's like
so
a
cool.
space of 8 seconds, and he's talking
stop
throughout
time.
the whole thing.
It's really
taunting
interesting.
Jotaro.
Yeah, because, like, if you're taking a screenwriting class, they're like, don't.
Yeah.
That
Right.
is exposition. Never, never. And it's so necessary in these moments. And I love it so much. I love being in their minds, hearing them think through these intricate plans. It's interesting. It is a completely different style, and I love it.
Every time Dio says the world, it's the best.
Zawaru, though, yeah.
It's the best
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And like, I do remember the opening. I say I skipped the openings, but for the world episodes, the opening actually changes. It gets to Dio's point, and I'm thinking like, and then they redo that again in part 4 to less extent with everyone bites the dust. Another one bites the dust. I think it's just called bites the dust. It's like break down, and then it's and then it goes in backwards. Less effective. But that first time, changing this thing you've seen 20 times is so cool.
Yes.
What a cool thing to do is change your opening based off a new thing that you've learned. The reveal of the world is so fun. And like the stakes, man. You never see anyone more in pain than JoJo during that fight.
Yeah.
And like Ben said, he's like taking the hits to learn more about how this works. And he's like near death because he needs to figure out how it is and take the hit. Oh my God. Love that.
And you were talking about deaths. I think they're used really well in that fight.
Yeah.
Spoiler, obviously. This will be
right
flagged.
on. Yeah.
This will be flagged. But having him take out Kakyoin and having him take out Joseph, and then the Joseph spirit being like, this had to happen.
Yeah.
I had to go through this in order for you to beat him. It was really effective. And strangely got me more attached to Jotaro in that scene than I had been the entire season.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because you got some more growth and depth there from
Right.
him, you know?
Because he's fighting
A lot
for
of
something.
yeah, and a lot of times they
There's
just had him as like
emotion behind those
the
punches.
cool high school character that doesn't really care, he just wants to save his mom kind of thing. That's about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Did you pick a fave?
No, I haven't picked a fave, and I'm going to pick something from part 4 that I really liked that I don't think was done as well in any of the other seasons. We were talking about this again before the show. I really like the first couple episodes of Diamond is Unbreakable, and here's why I like it. Because they introduce this murderer, Angelo. They make him an immediate threat.
Yeah.
He's just, within the space of 2 episodes, there's an entire storyline with this character. They bring Jotaro in, they tie this character from the previous season. They're fighting together, they're working together against this thing. Josuke's grandfather is killed. It's really sad because you have this good scene before he's killed where he's just kind of messing around with Josuke, this kid who's really into his appearance and trying to take care of his hair. You see kind of a softer side of him with his grandfather. You see the single mother who like just misses Joseph Joestar, and the death of the grandpa kind of is really, really hard on her. And when she sees Jotaro, she thinks it's Joseph.
Yeah.
And basically what I'm
Yeah,
trying
I want
to
to
say.
explain that, Jones. Joseph has an illegitimate child in Japan.
Okay.
I love that. That's like, you probably shouldn't like this character that much. He
Right.
did this and then left that child completely.
Right, and so you
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
man, Joseph's really a scumbag, but the scene where she runs out to Jotaro and she
Yeah.
thinks it's Joseph,
Yeah.
he's like, I don't have time for this. He does his typical Jotaro thing, but then
Yeah.
he walks away, and this is what he says. He says, if Joseph were here, he would do everything in his power to protect you. And you think to yourself, yeah, that's probably true. And so, again, you have these conflicting feelings where you're like,
Yeah.
Joseph, you're kind of scummy, but I really like you.
He takes care of that invisible baby.
He takes care of that. Yeah.
Yeah, he does things to make you like him in the end. Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, this villain that is introduced in the first 2 episodes, kind of, it's such a self-contained thing, and they go through so much. They establish and resolve so much so quickly, and all of it feels like it has a ton of weight, and you get a very good grasp of the characters quickly. I liked that. I think in the anime, what I've seen so far of JoJo, nothing has been like constructed that tightly outside of those 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Was very into it.
Morio is cool too. It's a really cool town.
It is.
And I like how you said at the end, they're like, this guy becomes a rock.
Right.
He becomes a permanent fixture of Morio. They do that a bunch. When an enemy loses, becomes a permanent part of history. Like the
Right.
guy in the metal tower. I love that. And he's just like, you can go to the metal tower and you can talk to him. Yeah, I love you can take this book out in the library. I love those things. That's so
Right.
cool
And
little details.
Because it's focusing on this small town in Japan, you can have that kind of thing happen where this villain in these first 2 episodes becoming this permanent fixture, it feels like it has more consequence, whereas sort of the globe-trotting adventures in Star Wars Crusaders, like you said, well, it's nice that they visit all these different cultures and they have different experiences with them. There's not this lasting effect. There's not this intimacy that you get in Diamond is Unbreakable that I really like, and why I like Diamond is Unbreakable more than Star Wars Crusaders. Okay.
I really like at the end, very, very end.
Yeah.
You learn that we never find out who the mother of the invisible baby is.
Right.
Just Jones, it said like
All right.
like an epilogue style. It just has Joseph like holding an invisible baby that he has to paint, and it says like the mother of the invisible baby was never found. That's just it. That's the end of that story.
Yeah.
All right.
Deal with it.
Yep.
Not to not to drag this out, but I actually do think that's one of my biggest criticisms with JoJo as a whole is sometimes when things are resolved abruptly, it's kind of funny and they play it to comedic effect, but it sometimes feels like very important things are just sort of wrapped up, even if there was a big build-up beforehand in like kind of a frustrating way. It's almost as if it doesn't know how to do it, so it just kind of does it, and it can be a little frustrating.
Yeah.
For sure. The last part of our show, and Jones, I'm gonna bend the rules a little bit for you. We recommend an anime, so this allows us to maybe try to spotlight on something that we haven't yet been able to devote a whole episode to. You don't have to do an anime. You can do a television show, a book, whatever you want. Just recommend.
You can even do Avatar.
You can even do Avatar if you want. But Kyle, I'm gonna start with you. And
don't start with me. Don't start with me.
Okay, don't start with you. Brad, do you
Sure.
have an anime that you'd like to recommend?
I'm gonna recommend Hellsing,
Okay.
which is an anime about a family who have a vampire under their control. Especially, this vampire's name is Alucard.
Nice.
Man, this guy is savage. Just like Vampires Jones. Have you seen this, Jones?
I'm
Hellsing?
familiar with what you're talking
Man,
about. He's got
Jones.
a giant hat, right?
This is
This
right up your
ridiculously
alley, yeah.
huge hat. Bigger
Hunting
than Jackman's.
vampires, like, oh my god, it's so cool. With like, there's this character like Anderson who's like a Catholic priest. Oh, I thought you're covering your ears. Like,
No, I'm
spoilers.
still thinking, man.
There's 2 rounds, super gory in a lot of parts though too, and I believe there's the original Hellsing's 13 episodes. Then there's Hellsing Maximum, I think. I haven't seen.
it's
that yet,
Ultimate,
though.
Hellsing
Ultimate. Yeah, I haven't seen that yet though, but super awesome, man.
Okay. Is the best thing about it just the violence?
In that show, yeah, I mean, there's a character that becomes like a main character along with Alucard. She's a really awesome character, I think. She gets turned into a vampire in the first episode, and how she kind of deals with all that kind of stuff too.
Nice.
But for me, yeah, the violence is like the best part.
Okay. Cool. I've got one, unless Jones, you've got one ready, locked and loaded to go.
I got one.
Okay.
It's not anime, but
That's fine.
Just to express where I'm coming from. I grew up, one of my favorite people, other than obviously like the Disneys and the Hanna-Barberas and stuff, that has produced anything animated on television is Bruce Timm and Paul Dini, who did the animated series and Batman Beyond and all that stuff. I'm pretty sure it's still on Netflix. I recommend, if you haven't really seen any of that or haven't gone back to it in a long time, Batman the Animated Series is dynamite. But that first season of Justice League, when they actually got the chance, one of the things I really liked about Bruce Timm and Paul Dini is I always got the vibe that they're like, okay, we're making Batman for kids. We only have 20 minutes. What can we do? And I always got the vibe of these creative minds that wanted to do more than they were capable of doing, but just did the best that they could with the tools that they had. And you go into Justice League and then realizing, oh my God, we got Martian Manhunter now and all these other crazy characters. The first season of Justice League, everything's a two-parter. All the episodes are two-parters. And the stakes are high for like 10 episodes straight. Like it's just one crazy thing after the other, that actually looking back on the history of DC Comics was like, oh, that actually was a giant Green Lantern moment. Like, oh, I remember that was really, pivotal turn in the story of Wonder Woman, that they basically just sat down at a table and they were like, okay, let's say this show gets canceled at the end of the season. What are we going to regret we never did? And they all just put it out on the table. And so it's just like, relentless. And I remember as a kid watching it and being like, this show's great. And then going back and revisiting on Netflix, I was like, wow, they really pulled out all the stops to just make the most of the time that they had. And yeah, excellent.
Nice.
Good stuff.
You got it, Kyle?
Got one.
Hit me.
Dragon Ball Super.
Ooh.
You're killing me.
Yeah.
You're
Dragon
killing
Ball
me
Super.
because I want to watch it so bad.
It is insane to me that we have canon Dragon Ball episodes and it's not the hugest thing right now. It's crazy to me we're not all talking about Dragon Ball Super. It's insane to me.
Why is it insane to you?
It's so good. It's such a fun, self-aware continuation of what is good about Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z.
All right, I'm going to play devil's advocate here.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle, Dragon Ball's been going on forever.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about Dragon Ball. I've seen Dragon Ball. I've seen Dragon Ball Z. I've seen Dragon Ball GT.
Mm-hmm.
Is it really worth it to watch all these episodes of Dragon Ball Super? What makes this special? What will excite me if I'm a jaded Dragon Ball fan?
So definitely skip the filler. What I like about it is that new stakes are introduced in, I would call it, a fair way.
Okay.
And there's fun moments where it's a smarter show than I realized. where a character will be introduced and I'm like, wait, but that guy sucks. And then 3 episodes later, it's like, we know he sucks, Kyle. We know you would think that. That's the whole point of this guy. And I'm like, oh! Oh, you're a smart show in a weird way.
You took the bait.
Yeah.
You think you were outsmarting it, and you're like, I know this
Well,
game.
I didn't think I was outsmarting it. I was just
see.
like, that's. I was disappointed. I was disappointed in what was presented, and then it turns out it's actually really cool. And part of their plans and part of these characters and what they're up to. Basically, what it does is it presents unique stakes. What's happening in Dragon Ball Super right now is the kind of thing you would dream about happening in a Dragon Ball universe. It's the kind of thing where it's just like, yeah, yes. It's like for fans, basically.
Gotcha.
It's like, yes, please. Yes, that's so fun. Thank you.
Kyle, I saw one episode of that show.
Uh-huh.
It was a filler episode.
Oh, no.
And when they played baseball.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Oh, you loved the filler episode?
I loved it.
Yeah.
Vegeta was the pitcher, and he just like beams Yamcha to take him out. It was so
Wait, really?
good. Yeah.
And then he had to take a base?
Yeah. Then like Goku gets up to the bat, and they both like turn God mode or whatever when they're batting and pitching. Oh my god, it was
I'm
so
in
fun.
just for Vegeta.
It was
beating
so
Yamcha.
fun.
Yeah.
How many episodes of Dragon Ball Super are there now?
It's a really good question. Because I don't know what it is, like filler, non-filler. And I skipped the first bunch because they're just the 2 movies. It is not overwhelming.
Okay.
And it's something that's just, there's a new episode every week, and it's actually something I look forward to.
Wow.
Yeah. There's a new episode tomorrow night.
Saturday nights?
Saturday nights, baby.
Just out of my own curiosity, are either of you two watching Attack on Titan season 2?
No.
I'm not, no. Why is it good?
I think it's pretty good.
I like
It's better
Attack
than I
on
was expecting.
I like Attack on Titan, but I
Yeah.
don't like it as much as everyone else.
So I was kind of the same way with season 1.
Yeah.
I liked it. I thought it was good.
Yeah.
There were, I think by the time you see this, the 4th episode will be out. The first 3 episodes, at least, surpassed my expectations.
Excellent.
Made me more invested in the characters than I was expecting them to.
Ben, when I say like I love rules in anime,
Yes.
I think Attack on Titan opens up with so many great rules.
Yes.
And I love that.
Yeah.
The different walls of this thing, that you have to kill a Titan from here,
Right.
these mysteries. And then I think probably my favorite example of this is probably Death Note. I know we're just doing recommendations.
Yeah.
The rules of Death Note, they're actually written out.
Right.
I
Yeah, in the book,
love Death Note for its rules, and I love the playing of the game of Death Note.
Yes, Kyle, I think that is absolutely one of the best things about Death Note because those rules never get too complicated, and the way that they mess around with them never feels unfair.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're simple, but they find awesome solutions to use these rules or go around them.
Yeah.
Yes.
I love rules. Dragon Ball
Kyle.
Super plays by the rules.
Kyle, watch Attack on Titan season 2.
Okay.
Do it.
All right.
But I feel, not to bring the conversation back to DC, but I feel the same way when I think about, those characters. Is that, like, I want those rules to be very clearly established. Like, that's what bugs me about Flash, whenever Flash is introduced. And, like, sometimes he's kind of jogging. It's like, come on, Flash should be able to get there.
Honchos?
He's like, come back to Flash. He's like, still trying to catch this drone. And it's
Yeah.
like, he would have caught it. Come on, Flash.
Yeah, if the Flash was on JoJo, he would have stats between the commercial breaks of his different attributes, and like if he's got an A in speed, but he's got like a B in intelligence, things like that.
One of the only redeeming moments from all the hours that I put into Smallville when that was on the air was when Flash was on, and Flash was like, okay, I'm gonna leave now, and Clark's like, well, why don't you stick around? And Flash is like, yeah, I tell you what. Let's race for it, and if you can beat me, I'll stick around.
Okay.
And Clark's like, okay, let's do it. And then they start running, and like Flash is like, oh, you almost got me, and like turns around and is running backwards and is like, bye, and takes off. And you're like, Flash is faster than Superman. I like that.
Great.
That makes sense to me. If I was
Yeah.
to create my own DC universe, it's the one thing Flash, he's the fastest man alive. Just give him that. It's like in that one instance, like Superman's stronger, Superman,
Can fly. Yeah.
all these things, but like that,
Let Flash
you'll
have it.
always have that edge on him. Captain America's shield will always stop Thor's hammer every time. I like that.
Completely random, but I need to know, have you seen the finishing move Flash has in Injustice 2?
I
have not.
Oh,
So,
Brandon,
although
you need to
that,
look at that.
It's
that
really
baby's
good.
coming along. Every time I see them tweet some video out, I'm like, oh god.
It's really well done.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The recommendation that I have for this episode was actually recommended to me by somebody I play Patreon D&D with.
Oh, excellent.
One of our higher tiers on Patreon. And
Must be nice. You get to Ben's ear for anime.
yeah, you get a direct line.
If you
Yeah.
want to recommend
work-
any anime to Ben,
Right.
you must.
No.
They work it into the D&D campaign.
No, but I mean, unlike a lot of times we do get recommendations where it's over Twitter or a message board or something like that, I got to see his enthusiasm for it.
Sure.
And he said, watch the English dub. You have to do it. He wouldn't say anything else. He just said it was hilarious. And so with Ghost Stories...
Oh, okay. Sure.
With Ghost Stories, you do have to watch the English dub.
Oh, I know what this is. Yeah. Yes.
What they did with the dub, it is the things that come out of these characters' mouths. So if the dub didn't take the liberties that it did, it would just be a pretty typical Ghost Story. But what they do, the jokes that they throw in, I had to rewind several times because I'm like, no, they didn't just say that. Oh, yes, they did. I'm paraphrasing here, but in the first episode, they're in this haunted house, and they're talking about ghosts. And I'm like, don't worry, ghosts only haunt... This is the spirit of the line. I don't know if it is exactly, but they're like, ghosts only haunt bad people and conservatives. And then they just move on. I'm like, wait, what? No, did you really?
And the poor voice actors are just doing it straight?
They're just doing it straight.
Yeah,
and it's it's really sharp. It's really quick. And I just was just this belly laugh at some of the lines.
So you think that was not in the original, but then the localization team?
Oh,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah,
But
totally.
is it kind of like that? I don't remember the name of it, but that like crazy stunt show, live action stunt show in Japan.
Yeah.
That they got a hold of, and then they like
Extreme
rewrote
Challenge
all the...
something? Yeah.
Is it Takeshi's?
Not important.
I think that's the
remember
Japanese name of it. And then
Right.
like, they turned it into like Most Extreme Challenge
Cool.
in the
Right,
US.
right.
And added a bunch of dumb jokes.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But the dumber the better. It's just
Yeah.
like it's its own type of writing.
if you just want to laugh at pure
Ghost stories?
absurdity, yeah, Ghost Stories. Brent, I
Cool.
think this would be perfect. Just
I
to
like
throw
ghosts. I
on.
like that kind of humor.
Crunchyroll,
Don't have
Netflix,
to
or
take-
Hulu? How do we see Ghost Stories?
So the way I just bought the DVD,
Oh, okay.
which I think is fairly inexpensive, and it's on Amazon, and that
nice.
has both English and Japanese. I don't think you can watch it on a streaming service. I think before I bought the DVD, I checked, but I'm doubting myself a little bit. So if you want to watch it, I think you might have to do the
Pass
DVD.
it around, Ben.
Yeah.
When you finish it.
Yeah, I'll absolutely pass it around. I want you guys to see it. I would love to do an episode on it and basically just picking out some of our favorite lines because they're so crazy and so funny. But yeah, I think that's gonna do it.
Yeah.
I have
the
one last thing.
supplemental Yep.
Just one last little just to bring it back to JoJo.
Yeah,
Please.
bring it back to JoJo.
Because we were talking about this earlier. We were talking about the opening. One quality that I love as an editor, as someone who it sometimes is in a position where I have to take the same assets and make them last over several episodes or over the life of a show. They have Roundabout, which is this like 8-minute song. Mm-hmm. And I love that depending on the ending of a JoJo episode, they'll pick a different part of Roundabout. And I like that there was one that like actually ended kind of tragically. I think somebody died just right at the end of the episode. Then it goes into credits. It's like, in the roundabout. It's like, oh, they picked the soft part.
Yep.
And man, I mean, it's like Supernatural, the TV show with Wayward Son. Like, I will never hear Roundabout again for the rest of my life
Without
on this
thinking
earth.
about it.
Yeah, JoJo.
Yeah.
It's like, there you go.
You have it, JoJo.
Any part of that song, because all of the parts of the song at one point have been a part of the credits.
Jones, part 4 uses that Soundgarden song that's like, ooh, I want you out of new
Yeah,
vibes
it's great,
in
dude.
midnight. Ooh, I gotta find out. The lamest song in the world, and it's still an appealing closing.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
I was taken aback at the beginning of season 2 and they had a different opening song. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that first song is so good. Mm-hmm. But second.
Why pick that one song?
It's hard to
like a
beat
chicken cherry
Roundabout.
cola. Like, oh.
I really did like their use of Walk Like an Idiot interesting too. I thought that
Yep.
was cool.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, actually.
There is, once again, tying it back into JoJo before we end this episode, there is something that I feel very guilty about, because I think in the last JoJo episode, I mentioned, hey, I'm really going to make an effort to read parts 5 through 8 and talk about those, because I know we have a lot of viewers that have read those parts and have a lot to say about them and are frustrated that we're only talking about the anime. I really, truly had every intention of reading parts 5 through 8.
What's the matter with you, Ben?
I read the first volume of 5.
Yeah.
And I thought it was very good, but I still have so much left. I just ran out of time. I got tied up with other stuff, and so
But it's all fan translations.
yeah, it's not official.
Yeah, that's
Which-
so weird to me.
Which I don't like.
Right.
It's frustrating for
Jones,
me.
we have to pirate those or learn Japanese to catch up.
Have
Yeah.
Blood translate them.
Isn't that crazy?
Japanese can't be that hard.
It is simpler than many other languages.
No, that's calculus. That's not. That's an extremely
Yeah.
difficult skill.
This
to
is
master.
This is just me saying I'm sorry, I couldn't do that.
Come on, Ben, you've been busy, dude.
I have been busy.
It's not like you didn't want to read it.
I know. I do want to read it. I am going to read it. It's going to happen at some point. But
if you could give Japan a little more attention, Ben, we'd appreciate it.
Yeah.
Us and the fans.
So if you're frustrated by that, I totally get it. I think that's fair. That's why I'm excited to turn this into a positive. That's why I'm so excited for the Steins Gate episode.
Oh, nice.
Because it's going to be not 8 parts of something. It's going to be 25 episodes of the anime. We do have both visual. We have Steins Gate and Steins Gate Zero, the visual novels, which we will be talking about. I don't think we'll necessarily have those finished, but we should have a much more comprehensive discussion for Steins Gate than we had for JoJo and One Piece. So if that has been a frustrating thing for you, I totally understand that. We're aware of it.
That's what happens when we pick humongous properties.
Yeah. We're still figuring out this show, but I hope you enjoyed this episode. I want to give a huge thank you to Brandon Jones,
my pleasure,
Bosman, for being on this. I really liked having guest Brad.
Yeah,
Did you
me
like
too.
It?
Oh yeah.
Okay, we might have to.
It's always nice to have outside perspectives.
We might have to do this again. The Hunter episode. The people want it. Every single thing that we post for EZAnime, Hunter, Kyle Bosman, get them on there. We're gonna do it at some point. But thank you all for watching. We will see you April 30th for the Steins Gate episode.